Who is Easter Seals? Easter Seals is a not-for-profit organization that offers services to people who have disabilities. They offer family services, adaptive technology, and so forth. They have I checked their website, and they have a very big section devoted to parents of children who have autism. Today, I went down there for a bit of an evaluation. They asked me what I am doing, which in this case would be school. What do I feel I need, which in this case was a portable video magnifier. Now, this had already been arranged, but they still did the formalities. And why do I feel I need it? And I explained it to them that I'm going to be going into student teaching, going to be grading a lot of worksheets. It just makes more sense to have a magnifier on me than to blow up the worksheets and have the students. You have to write big. I don't want to have to do that, particularly if other teachers, if I'm the only teacher in that school requiring that specialized, form of handwriting, that's really going to screw them up, and I don't want to do that. So I figured just having a video magnifier may be helpful. Then I went ahead and went through the evaluation, took a look at the models that you're going to see here, and they asked if I felt the unit was useful. They said, and I said yes. I was leaning towards something called the SenseView Duo that we're going to see in a moment. And then they asked me if I knew about the semi-portable units, such as the SAPPHIRE Amigo and so forth. Now, what do I mean by semi-portable? Semi-portable is a cross between a portable unit and one that's a desktop unit. And a desktop unit, you have a tray with a screen on top, or beside it in some cases. And JLS1114 has a video on hers, so that's an example of a desktop unit. This is a semi-portable unit. It's a 7-inch screen that can fold up and around, and this little area here is propped up because it has a writing facility aboard. I asked if they had this one or anything similar to it. They said they didn't, so I wasn't able to look at one, unfortunately. But I'm still curious about looking at one, as we'll see in the comments. Also, they told me that battery life figures, such as 4.5 hours on the SenseView Duo, they're not realistic, and that I shouldn't expect that. This is the SenseView Duo. There was a usable distance viewing monocular supplement, not a replacement, but a supplement. I asked the technology specialist if he felt it could be a replacement. He said, maybe. But I tried it, and I felt it was rather useful. Now, the picture was a little bit fuzzy, but the poster was readable. I think the only reason it was fuzzy was because there was not really an awful lot of light in that particular area of the room. So, this is the distance camera. Great reading and writing facilities, which are handled by this camera. So really you have two cameras. And this one is on a square mount because it can flip up 45 degrees. I tried writing with it, loved it. It was fantastic. I was a little bit slow. It took me some getting used to. It will probably take me some getting used to if I decide to go ahead with this one. The only negative about this one was, look at it. See how it's kind of wide? It wasn't very pocketable. It could barely fit in my jacket pocket, and when it did, I couldn't get it zipped, which I thought was a bit of a negative. I tried it with the case, and it was, and like I said, I could barely get it in there. I think maybe without the case, I could probably get my jacket zipped. I didn't try it, though, because I really don't want to carry this thing around naked, because I know that sounds silly, but it's true. This is very delicate equipment. Again, $1,000, you want to protect this. This is not something you can go to a drugstore and pick up. This is a traditional magnifying glass on steroids. In fact, these all are. And very few people buy them, therefore the pricing is going to be very high. Freedom Scientific Ruby at $795. This one was a real surprise. Had it not been for the shortcomings I noticed, I probably would have picked this one right away. And also had it not been for the for my view on the importance of distance viewing. What I liked about it was that it was more pocketable than the SenseView Duo. It also had a somewhat better picture by a slight but noticeable margin, even though both units were very, very usable. You can't see it in this picture, but there's a pull-out handle on this side, and I'm coming from a magnifying glass. And because of that pull-out handle, this unit feels like a magnifying glass, which means an easier transition since I'm coming from one. And I did feel the familiarity. I really did. I felt the familiarity, and the nice thing is that I could just hold it with my right hand, operate the zoom and freeze with my right thumb, which I thought was really nice. So that's the positives. Another positive is that batteries are AAA and replaceable. Now that's a positive as well as it is a negative. The negative, and we'll start again, with the batteries, as well as they are a positive, they are a negative. It requires 4 of them. Rechargeable must be nickel metal hydride, and another negative is that the batteries are only 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours of continuous use. Now nobody expects you to use this for a long time, but still, I mean, 2 hours, that's on the low end of what you can expect out of these units. And if these figures, the 2 hours is from the manufacturer, and if those figures are not reliable, who knows how long it'll last. The LED lighting cannot be turned off, and the only real problem I would have with that is I like to fiddle with Linux sometimes, and I like to take a look at BIOS screens, and since the computer generates its own light, it would bounce back off, and that can create some reflection and glare and just, not really be useful. And then finally, and this is the worst, screen brightness cannot be adjusted, and that is a really big downfall for me. I'm photosensitive. Excuse me. And I already get enough glare coming from the projectors in the classrooms, okay? I have to have my MacBook's brightness down to the absolute lowest it can go before turning the screen off in order for me to not be blinded by the glare from the screen. So not being able to adjust brightness on the Ruby is probably the biggest shortfall of all. Then I took a look at the Nemo. Unknown manufacturer, $695 to $795. Really, the only thing I can think about this one was negatives. The smaller screen by half an inch, and let's take a look at the screen. It's square-shaped versus pretty much every other unit here, which is widescreen. It is uneasily manipulatable. It says reading stand. That should say writing stand. The reason is because it wouldn't stay in place for very long. The zoom is not variable. It's only set to 3 levels, which I guess is not as big of a problem for me as this is, which is the writing stand does not provide enough clearance for active writing. So that was a real downer for that one. Then we have the Ash Technologies Quick Look Zoom for $895. It has a rotating camera, and the camera can rotate a little bit beyond here. If you take this and move it this way a little bit, then you get a really nice writing facility. It was on par with the SenseView Duo. The camera is protected, which is another positive. If I'm going to be carrying this around, that's going to be good. Rubberized grip, which is easy to hold. There's an upgrade to this, which is the Quick Look Focus, and that possibly gives us some distance viewing, but because they didn't have that unit, I didn't have the opportunity to look at it. One of the negatives is that it felt rather bulky. Now, maybe that was just my initial perception, but I don't know. It felt bulky. Though it did feel a hair lighter than the SenseView Duo, it still felt a little eh. And I might be going through state services for the blind to look at this. Now, they buy adaptive technology for people who need it. They provide help with post-secondary education or employment opportunities. To conclude, any comments? I'd like to look at the SAPPHIRE if I can. Before I really make a decision, because this equipment, as you've seen with the pricing here, is not cheap. Usability aside, what would I say is my favorite? Probably the Ruby, because of the fact that it's so portable and it just looks good. I mean, look at this thing. It looks kind of like a portable media player, right? Well, people with disabilities are trying to be as mainstream as possible, so that's great. But that's pretty much it. That was my visit to Easter Seals, and I have to say that it went extremely well, and I'm very, very happy that I did it. Thank you for watching, and thank you, JLS, and everyone else for suggesting I do it, and have a nice day. Comments are welcome.